Hi everybody, hope you are all well. We're back with Sew for the Soul Handmade and our book that we are constructing. Got myself set up for a nice afternoon and possibly into the evening set of working on the next pages. So I've got my cuppa, got a nice scented candle going, and I thought I'd share with you what I'm planning on doing next with the pages. So a bit of a recap as to where we're up to. I've got a blank book using cotton wadding, but you can use whatever you want, and we've worked so far on pages 1 and 2, which was squares, straight edges and a circle. We've then now done a join, if you've got right up to date with everything, and we've got a little beaded tassel just on the bottom of that one. You could go to town if you want and put them all along the bottom, but I've just got one there on the corner. Our next one, which was crosses and a tag, and then the joining, I'm just going to move that over, set fire to stuff. The joining with this one was a really pretty lace edge that's been stitched into that, and then we have our Suffolk puffs. So we're going to move on now to another way of working. So we've got our next two clean pages. Remember to leave that, those will be stitched back together. So we've got our blank, and you need to choose your colour now for these two. So I've had a bit of a break from my yellows and mustards, so I just decided for this one I'm going to go back to my yellows and mustards. I've got an idea of where we're going to go with this. Whether or not it works or not, we'll have to see, but like I've done with most of the pieces that I've been doing, I have a sort of plan in my head and it sort of evolves as we're going along. So for this one, we're going to look at weaving, and we're going to create our background out of some woven fabric, and then we're going to stitch on the top. So we need to get that ready first. So I've got my rotary cutter and my ruler all ready to start cutting some strips. So the first thing I need to do is I need some strips that are long enough to go all the way from one side to the other, and then some strips that will do the width. So I'll probably end up cutting more than I'm going to need to start off with, so then we've got something to play around with. I've got a range of fabrics again, from linens to upholstery fabrics, some really nice cottons, some hand-dyed stuff, so a nice collection of fabrics and bits and pieces for this one. So all I'm going to start off doing is just cutting myself some strips. Now the strips don't have to be the same width all the time. They can be different widths, but what you might want to do is just watch the whole video before you make a start, just so that you know what's going on. I probably should have put a new blade in there. Never mind, I can just snip it. I do find that sometimes with my rotary cutter I get one little blunt spot and I'm never quite sure why. But I don't like going backwards and forwards with it, because I've done that before and I end up with massive zigzags. So just going to cut myself some strips. There we go. I think the upholstery fabrics are just really, really nice, because even though you've got this big picture, once you start taking sections out of it, it does look really, really nice. Like I say as well, I always keep my edges on there. So using a cutting mat and a ruler just helps you get things fairly straight. Okay. Normally I'd use my bigger cutting mat, but it doesn't fit. And it's going to be a bit harder to press down a bit more, I think. Oops. I normally use my bigger cutting mat for doing this, but it doesn't, well, it fits on the table, but I'd normally have it on my other table, because to fit it on this one I have to take everything off, and I've just got everything where I want it. So I might go a little bit thinner on this one. Thin one then a slightly thicker one. So we're going to create a woven background just to start working on, and once we've got it woven, we're then going to start stitching on the top and appliquing fabrics onto the top. So we're going to work across both the pages at the same time. Now in my head I've sort of got a plan of how that's going to work. Whether or not it does, we will soon see. In my head it's going to work, but you never know. It may evolve over time as we go on. Right, so the ones that are going to come down the page, I don't want those too thick, so I'm probably going to go for about 3 centimetres as the biggest or widest piece of fabric. I should get a new blade on that, and I know I have some new blades, but it's quite a while since I've used it, so I just can't think at this moment in time where it is, but it's just quicker than having to draw things out. If you don't have a rotary cutter, just measure it with a ruler and draw it on with a pencil and then cut it out. If you just draw your pencil lines on the back of your fabric, then when you start weaving you're not going to be able to see it. Or if you have one of the markers that's an iron away marker, you could work with that, but usually when you've cut things out you can't see it anyway. There we go, that's a bit better. Okay, I've got this little bit here which I thought was really cute, gorgeous mustard colour, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get a edge out of this. Okay, let's see what we can get out of that one. So height of a book, oh yeah, I'm going to be okay. I think go for a 3 centimetre one there. So on the cutting mat there's just the markings. It just makes your life just that little bit easier because you can just line up the dashes either end, and then you know you've got it fairly even. Okay, right, there we go. Right, so I'm just going to carry on doing this and then I'll come back when I've got all my strips cut. So I've cut out lots and lots of strips. I've done 4 going horizontally and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 going vertically. So what we're going to start doing now is we're going to start looking at the weaving. Now, like I say, I am totally making this up as I am going along. I have a sort of plan in my head and we will see how it comes along. Leave some of the bits a bit longer than your pages because it might be quite nice to have some bits sticking out when it comes to the end, and you can always chop them off and trim them afterwards. So what we're going to do is start at one side of our page, and once you've decided what order you would like these to go in, we're going to pin the edges. I'm still leaving a little bit of white around the edge, but you could take all these right off the edges if you wanted to. That's just totally and utterly up to you. I quite like how I've gone longs and shorts. Some of it can be just because that's just the width of fabric that you just happen to have, and that's just how it fits. So we're going to start at this end, and I'm just going to pin this end bit in. I've got a wonky pin there. Okay, now I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap, so I'm making the distance between my pieces a little bit different as well, because then that'll just mean that when we start weaving you have got different things and different amounts of fabric on show. Okay, right, so we've pinned that side in, so I'm going to take my first piece of fabric and just going to go under, over. Just get that so it's just pulled up as near as you want. So because that's my slightly shorter one, that's going to be my starting point. So what I'm going to do is unpin that one, and I'm going to put it so that they are sort of joined together. So put that pin back in. So you're going to need quite a few pins to start off with. So once you're happy, get that bit more at the edge, it's just a little bit in the way. Once you're happy that you've got it straight, just grab a pin and pin your ends. Okay, that's number one. Okay, right then, next one. So this time we go the other way around. So we're going to go over first, under, over and under. Now this one I'm going to pull right up to the one that I've done, so I'm not leaving a gap, so it matches all the way up. Then again, just pop a pin in, so it's just going to hold it in place. So the weaving as we go along will start growing in strength. Okay, now then, so the next one I'm going to do slightly differently because I've got this fabric that I really like, and because I've got two fabrics the same, I want to mix it up a little bit. So I want to see a little bit more of this fabric compared to the other one. So I'm going to go under, I'm going to go over, under, and then I'm going to go over. So that I'm sort of beginning to create myself some slightly larger shapes, which will become apparent as to why a little bit later on in the video. Okay. Oh, somebody next door blowing their horn. I don't know what the weather will be like when this actually comes out, but at the moment it's a very grey, dull day here. So it's just quite nice. I'll pop a pin just in the middle of that one, just to stop that moving around, because that's obviously gone over twice. Okay. Right, so obviously we've gone over twice there, so I definitely want to go under. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to move this a little bit further away, so I'm actually leaving a little bit of my background visible. Okay, so that one's just going to be a normal under, over, under. You do need to sort of work out where the middle bit of your page is, because we don't want one of our uprights actually on the page, so we're going to have one at one side and one at the other. Okay, just pin that, make sure it's stay in the right place. Pop a pin in, coming down, down, and pop a pin in. Oh, these white ones I'm finding are a little bit better. They're a little bit smaller, but because they've got a blob of white on the end, I can see them a little bit better. When you're working with yellow fabric and you've got brass pins, it's not an ideal combination. Right, next piece. Over, under, over, under. So this was the edge of a piece of fabric, so it's a little bit thicker. Now, this is where I've got to make a decision, is do I leave the white there, or do I move that up to the edge? And I think I'm going to move it up to the edge, because then I've got a white square there that when we start doing some stitching, I will have another shape to play around with. Okay, that's that one. under over. Just make sure you're only pinning through one of your pages. Double check. Yep. Okay, so that's one side done. Okay, so I'm going to make this one come right up to the edge as well, because then it will sort of hide the join that we've got in our book, but will still mean under over, that the pages, it'll still fold over. Just check. Yeah, that is fine. Quite liking this idea of weaving. Just check I've got one page. Okay. Right, so we can carry on a bit quicker now. So I've got a stripy bit. So I might do over, under with this one, because then that will match up the pattern that's there. So we're sort of building in those bits. Now, the other bit then that you can add, which I did forget, and I've just reminded myself, is obviously you can get some bits of lace, and these can be woven into your piece as well. So actually, before I put that one in, I might just pop a little run of that. So over, under. Pop that in. Actually, I think what I might do with that is have it running over that piece of grey. Just adds a little bit something extra. And you could even have it where that then comes over the top. That's quite nice. So it hides a little bit. I might need to put some of that in there now, but I'll be able to thread that through. This is what I mean about how I don't necessarily plan everything that's going on. And I do think that is, for some people like it as a way of working, other people really don't. They want to sit and plan everything out. And if that's you, feel free, plan everything. So watch the video right to the end and then come up with a definitive plan about what you want to do. I quite like seeing how things just start growing, really. I think a little bit of that would be quite nice in there as well. That's not too bad because I've only got to go underneath that one. There we go. Yeah, that's cute. There we go. I know this probably isn't the most exciting thing to watch, but I think the reason that I've started doing this little bit a little bit longer is it's quite nice to know what's going through somebody's head as you're making decisions. I've absolutely loved some of the fabric stashes on Instagram. If you're following the hashtag sew4thesoulbook, you'll see photos of everybody else's work that's sharing the hashtag. But what's really nice is people have been posting their collections and their stash when you've got it ready, and your colours and everything is just fantastic. Now you see I've just done all that now, and then I've realised that actually it might be quite nice to have one going that way as well. Best laid plans and everything. But again, with this you can play around. You don't have to go under and over in all the same places. So that can go underneath there, and then can go over the top. Can't go underneath that one, so I've got to wait now for that. So that can go there. That's quite nice because it's given me a little bit of a composition. So we're working with grids with this one. I just think working like this as well, it just helps you get on with your work. I think one of the things that you can do is you can end up just sitting and doing a lot of thinking and not actually doing anything. And if you just get yourself working, just get some fabric and just start playing around, it just sort of starts coming together. I think I just need a bit of a gap there. I'll go for a bit of a bigger one, so I'll definitely get a square. So I've got 2 rectangles there, then I've got a square that's there. Pins. There we go. So I hope everybody's well and that things are, wherever you are, getting back to a little bit of normality. We're doing a little bit of teaching actually in school and seeing some of the kids, but still learning to teach online, which has been interesting. Not the easiest subject, art, to teach on a computer. It's very difficult to motivate the students sometimes. So I think you just need to be with other people when you're doing art. It just really, really helps. I know it helps me a lot with what I'm doing. Now I've got 3 pieces left. I'm going to put another dark one in, because I just think a dark colour just works. Or do I just go with, no, I need the dark colour in. I'm not going to go at the edge because the dark colour was there, so pop the dark one in. Now if you've got little bits of fabric you think, oh, it's such a shame I haven't used that bit, don't worry, because we are going to be working on top of this as we go through. Let's make that down a bit. So we go through this particular page, we're going to be working on top and using the grids as a little bit of inspiration to do some stitching. Possibly going to start introducing some other embroidery stitches, because I've kept it really, really simple to start off with. But it might be quite nice to start introducing some other stitches in. Okay, right, and then I've got my last little bit that I'm going to put in. So I had got another piece here, but I've sort of begun to run out of room and I don't think I need it, but it might be quite nice this then when we start working over the top. This might come onto the top of this bit, so I've just got to decide. That's going to go over, and I'm going to have that going over the top. That went over, so it's going to go under, over, under. Perfect. Okay. Right, so I've got my grid. Got it all pinned. Now what we need to do now is we just need to get this so it's going to hold in its shape, in its place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack around just the edges. So I'm just going to tack along there, down the side and along here, because what that will do then is, even though this lot will all move in the middle, it's going to hold it in place, because what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working on top of this. So as we start stitching onto the top of it, that's going to hold everything in place. That's the idea. Okay, so I need a thread. So I think I'll probably use, I've got a mustardy colour silk thread. So I think I'll go with that. So I'll show you the start of this and then I'll carry on with it. Oops. Grab a needle. So just using tacking stitches again, but what I'll probably do with this one is maybe not have as much visible on the top, just have some little stabbing stitches, and then we can start going to town a little bit more with our other stitches. So start at this bottom corner. So I just need to make sure that I'm going to catch that piece of fabric that's underneath, so I need to go in just a little bit. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do is a little one on the top and then move it under. The reason that I'm going to do it like that, so that is a really, really, really tiny, tiny, tiny stitch. So my needles come up here and I'm practically going down next to it, going along about a centimetre and coming back up. And what this will do is, when we're doing that, is I'm going to go over that bit of lace just to hold that in place. This just means then we've got everything stitched down around the edge, but it also means that these tacking stitches then won't be coming out because we can't see them. So I've got my threads just come up here and I'm going down practically next to it, about 1 millimetre away. So on the back I'm doing about 1 centimetre. There. Come to a piece of fabric, make sure you come up just in front of the fabric and then go down onto the fabric, and you're just going to work your way around your pages back down practically where you just came up, and we're going along. Now, so I'm coming to the edge here, so I want to come up actually on the fabric and then go down just so it catches that edge. So you can see now that's really well stitched down. Obviously, I know some people have sent me messages saying, is it okay if I do this or that or the other? It's perfectly fine. This is just my way of working, which hopefully will inspire your way of working. But everybody out there has a different skill set. We all have different stitches that we like. We have different threads that we have a preference to. And also with the situation that we've been living in since March, for some people even before then, you can only just really work with what you've got available to you. I know some people have taken their books to pieces to work in. Some people are presenting them actually in a paper book. It's perfectly fine. So I went down there and now I'm going to start going across the top, exactly the same, little stab stitch, then take it along and take the pins out as you go in. And this should start holding everything in place. So where we're coming up to a piece of fabric, I'm going to come up on the yellow fabric side. So I'm up on the yellow fabric side and then I'll go down on the dark grey. Just so it makes sure that the edge of that bit of fabric is well stitched. And then when I come to the end of the piece of fabric, I'll come up on the grey, and then I'm going down on the yellow. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing next, working our way all the way along, just making sure that everything is just tacked in place. Right, so I've got everything stitched down, and all I've done is popped a few pins just in different places just to hold these bits in. But like I say, once we start stitching, things are going to attach down. I've started doing a little bit. So one of the ideas is to start cutting patches. So I've got these patches here that I've put over the top and then done some straight stitches. So this is really going to start holding down some of these sections. Straight stitches just running down in the yellow that I picked out, and then when it comes to these little white squares, I can start doing different bits of stitching inside them. So I've just got myself a grey thread, so I decided with this one I'm just going to sort of do a little bit like a patch. So I'm going to just pin these bits just to stabilize them, just so that they don't move or distort while I am stitching. I've got that bit already stitched down, so just holding those in place. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I've got a pearl A thread, and all I'm going to do with this one is just straight stitch just to make it look like a patch. So to make it a little bit whimsical, I'm not going to keep my stitches all the same length, because this is the wadding that's through there. You don't want to pull it too tight. So let's work my way around. So some long stitches, maybe get a few of them a little bit closer together. This is where you can just really start playing with your stitching. And what I'll do, because I've not quite decided yet, this is going to be, as I said at the beginning, sort of evolve as it's going along. So what I'll do is I will post some pictures after this little segment of the different things that I've done, and then it can just be up to you as to what you would like to do. As with everything, it is just your own choice, your own personal stitches, bits and pieces that you'd like to add, but the main basis for this one is the weaving section. So that one will carry on all the way around, and it might get to the end of it and it might be that I want to put something in the middle. Not quite sure. I've just glanced over and I've just seen my giant hook and eyes and thought, ooh, they'd look quite good as well. Try anything. So like I said, I think I've mentioned in previous ones that we all have these stashes of beautiful things that we just keep. I know I've got dishes and dishes full, and I've got to start using them, because otherwise nobody else is going to appreciate them, and then at some point they'll just get thrown away or discarded because somebody might not know what they are. And also it does seem a shame just to have things put away. I think put it in the book sort of gives it that precious feel. I know whenever I say the word precious, I just think of Lord of the Rings. Things being precious. Okay, so that would carry on. Let's flip that round. So I'll carry on stitching around the edge, and then I've got a bit in the middle. So it could be that I've got a tiny bit of lace that I might pop in there. Absolutely anything. I've got these buckles that I bought online. eBay's amazing. I think I might have actually got these off Instagram, possibly Ruby Sixpence, or even the Linen Garden. Not quite sure. I'll have a look back through. But I've got these buckles, and I've got one that's like a grey-blue colour. So I've just stitched on a little bit of fabric, so I think I'll probably end up attaching that on somewhere. And I had, yeah, here we go, some linen buttons, so they might go on as well. It might be that I dye one of these buttons. I might do that grey and pop it in there so that that stands out a little bit more. I just mentioned eyes. Just seen these are just from Hemline, just from that local haberdashery, but they're extra large ones. I've used these before. I used them on part of my Sew for the Soul piece. They're just really, I just love them because they really, really stand out. So it could be that you use your grid shape to shape some of these bits and pieces. I like things in odd numbers, but the idea with using the grid is the fact that you've then got these squares that you can start putting things into. Just busy looking around. I've got I don't know what I've done with them, but I've got all my little safety pins that I had before, so I might pop some safety pins on here as well. So it's one of those things that you have them to hand all the time, and then the second that you just think, oh, I could just do with those, you can't find them, which is a little bit annoying. Unless they've gone underneath all my fabric. Nope, don't know where they are, so I'll have to have a look for those. Obviously then as well, you can start adding all sorts of different bits to this. Don't go too over the top, because what we don't want to do is lose the grid work that's underneath. So you're using some of these squares just to add other sections to your piece. It could be that they're just tiny ones and they actually fit in some of the squares. So like I say, I will continue stitching with this, and after this segment I'll pop some videos, not videos, sorry, just some photos of little sections just to give you some sorts of ideas. But that's where we're up to, starting to work with your squares and with the segments just to start doing some stitching and embellishing. So you can see I've been quite busy with these 2 pages. I've really enjoyed working on the grid work. So you can see I've done quite a lot of stuff, and from the photos that I've put on as well, there's some slightly better closer ups. So it was a case of working within some of these sections. So this was the bit that I'd stitched around the edge, and then I've gone and added some pistol stitches in and amongst all the way around, and I found a button that got a really nice dark line around it. I do tend to use linen buttons quite a bit, but I do have a lot of other buttons as well, so it's quite nice just going through my stash. Started adding a few more stitches, so we've not done a vast variety of stitches, so I've just got a connecting fly stitch just going down there, but I carried on quite a bit with the cross stitch because some of the fabric that I've got has got this really tiny little cross in it. So I was sort of mirroring the cross. So there's the cross there actually on the fabric, and then I've started doing little cross stitches, which is lovely because it gives it that really like borrow quilted, and because I've got the cotton wadding in between, it really does start to feel quilted. Taking inspiration from some of the fabrics, so there's a little bit there of Yorkshire tweed that's got a check in it, so some tiny French knots. You've got some areas where it's just a plain bit of fabric, just lots and lots of straight stitches. There's nothing underneath that at all. I know sometimes people ask, oh, have you put something underneath to wad it out? But just by doing this repetitive straight stitch, and because I've got the wadding underneath, but it should work with quite a few fabrics because you've got them all layered up, you get this lovely undulating texture. Varying the size of stitches, so just couching down. I think that was an edge of one of my bits of fabric, so where you've got the plain bit on the edge of your fabric, I still keep those as well, some nice stitches over there. Just popping bits of fabric down and decorating again, so we've got bullion knots going on, and couching down, that was the lace that I'd got, so I wove some lace in and amongst it as well. And then here we've got a section where I quite liked the woven fabrics that were behind, just popped on a tiny little bit just to bring the yellow in, so still keeping within my colour theme. Couple of bullion knots there, but then started with another square or rectangle of thread. So I've got the grey, the yellow, and then just edged it in the white, so it sort of gives you that feeling of a patch without actually having to put some fabric on. Put some of my little bits and pieces, so my little safety pins, part of a hook and eye. This was the little tag that I'd done, so I've decided to put it there, but I'd stitched down the piece of lace that was going behind it, so I just cut another piece and had it going through just to try, and it doesn't quite match up there, but I'm not that precious about stuff really. This is me fiddling about with it, but it just gives that feeling that that's going on, and it goes round and then it appears here again. A few pistol stitches, fraying the edges can be quite nice, gives you another texture, and then just like layering up, mirrored my really big stitches. So all in all, I mean, I do love the yellow and grey anyway, which is why I came back to this. This was what I'd done with my Sew for the Soul hanging. And it was just quite nice after having a break from it just to come back. So what I've then done is I've just pinned these two pages together, and I'll be doing another video shortly with some other ideas of connections, but I've just pinned it for now. So where we're up to at the moment, so we've got our pages 1 and 2. If you have a look on one of the Sew for Soul communities, you can see some of the amazing work that's gone on, people putting their own twist on it. So don't worry if you're only just starting, or if you're doing other things. I'm just giving you a basic starting point to your pages. You can do whatever you want with them. So we've got one of our joins there, which has just got a little tag on it. This is one, I've seen some absolutely gorgeous versions of this one, and I should be doing another Sew for the Soul community of the next pages. So you've got your tag and your kisses. I think the pocket thing, I might come back to that again because I really, really like the pocket. Got our other edge here, which is a lacy edge. Then we've got using a colour that you don't normally use, and the Suffolk Puffs, which when I started this, I did go through a real love-hate relationship with it, and I quite like it now, and I think I like it because there actually isn't that much stitching. The Suffolk Puffs and the bits of lace really are the showpieces for that particular page. And now we have our woven page, so you can see that the grey it's still coming through in all the pages. So you've got that thing that's connecting everything together. Even here it's only a little bit, but it's still there. We've gone back to it here, and then I will be doing our next pages, which will be out in a week or so, or possibly 2 weeks. It depends on how busy I'm starting to get, but hopefully we'll be in the summer holidays and the weather might brighten up a little bit from when I'm videoing this. So that's your next woven pages. So I really look forward to seeing how you tackle this one, and I will see you all soon. Stay safe everybody. Love and hugs.